Welcome to the Estate Professionals Mastermind Podcast, a podcast for estate professionals who earn more, work less, and make a huge difference in their communities. If you get value out of this free content, be sure to check out ProbateMastery.com, where you can get live classes, access to weekly coaching, and valuable courses. To learn more, visit ProbateMastery.com. Now let's jump into this week's content.
Good afternoon. Welcome. This is Bill Gross, and this is our Probate Mastery Real Estate Agent Coaching Program. We get together every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And we talk about all things related to building your real estate agent business in probate real estate. I'm Bill Gross, I'm a real estate broker here in LA, California. This program is part of the ProbateMastery.com program. That was founded by Chad Corbett. And it's really, I think, more than just a program, is more a perspective, an opportunity, an invitation for you to join the business in a different way. And that's how I took it. I was thinking today, I wanted to kind of start off with just a little bit of information or a little bit of content before. Now, if you guys have questions, this is meant to be participative. So raise your hands or put in the chat box. I'll definitely circle back and ask questions. I'd love it to be participative. I want to hear about your wins, your losses, challenges you're having implementing the system. But I was thinking today, I'm at a convention, and it's interesting the topics that are important to management more than to agents. But inevitably, those things fall downhill. Just like in the jungle, when the elephants fight, the field mouse can get stepped on. And I think in the industry, agents are somewhat the field mice, and these big industry titans are battling. And I think, I don't want to certainly get political or too spiritual, but I think we see it everywhere in our economy, in our country, in the world. There's massive changes going on, right? Politically, the stakes have never been higher in my life. I'm 64 years old. Economically as well, the companies that are major companies today were not major companies 20 years ago. The companies that were major companies 20 years ago, for the most part, either don't exist or aren't the same. I'll give you an example. When I started in real estate in 1986, I worked for the second largest lender I see a hand up. Does that mean you have a question? Or you also in 86? I worked for the second largest lender in the country at the time, Great Western Bank, later Great Western Savings. And their motto was, "We'll always be there." Well, guess what? They're gone. The number one largest was Home Savings America, and they're basically gone. The largest banks at the time were Bank of America, which, even though Bank of America exists, it's not really the same company. It went bankrupt and was bought by North Carolina National Bank, who took the branding of Bank of America and merged together. Wells Fargo isn't Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo went bankrupt and was bought, I think, by Wachovia, who kept the branding and changed it as well. And so the thing that I want to say is that in real estate, the same things are happening. We have a lawsuit that threatens to change the relationship between buyer and listing agents. I'm not sure how it's going to work out, what's going to happen with it. It's not really my concern to prepare for it today, but just point out these changes are going on. And as a result of that, and for other political reasons, I think, Redfin announced that they were leaving NAR, both for, there's a criminal investigation with NAR's management, not really sure what that's all about, sexual improprieties alleged, and Redfin says they're leaving because NAR doesn't treat the consumer fairly. Well, let's just be honest. Redfin doesn't really care about the consumer. When Redfin started, nobody imagined they'd be what they are today. Probably the second most powerful company in the industry, or one of the most, where consumers go to, where we as agents go to all the time to look at our listings. So they became realtors because they wanted to have access to MLS, and now they want to leave the Association of Realtors. In fact, the leaving is interesting. I don't really want to get into if any of that's good or bad. What I do want to say is that you can't rely on any company. If you're building a business, you have to rely on the value you create to your customers. And so the goal of this program where I sit, unlike I came through the Mike Ferry coaching program, I came through the Tom Ferry coaching program. Unlike those other coaching programs that I believe teach you how to be good coaching clients, the purpose of this is to teach you a perspective to help you find your path to building your business. And so I want to encourage all of you to not think about, well, this other company sold me data and they told me all I had to do was ABC and I'd be rich and it's not working. What do I do? I want you to think about what value you're going to create in the marketplace, what value the marketplace needs, and work on better delivering that value. That's what I do. And so to the extent we're going to have a coaching program, I can help you with that. I can't, though, if your value proposition is to cold call 3 hours a day, and there's nothing wrong with that. Bruce is a great coach. I have some basic fundamentals and how I can help with that. And Bruce is a great coach to help you with that. But neither of us are going to tell you that's the only way you can do business. We're going to tell you to design a business that works for you, and they'll work the heck out of it. And I do think we're going to transition in our market if it hasn't affected you already. It's interesting. My wife said to me, she's a former realtor. I like my realtor so much I married her. I sexually harassed her and then I married her, to be honest. She said, well, you're really lucky in that probate won't be affected by the market changes because people still die. I said, well, that's not really true because I see every day more and more people getting into this space. And where a year or two ago, realtors knew they weren't competent on a probate listing, they would refer them out to people who were. Now, agents who are faced with not having money to make their payments are clinging to that deal. I see more and more bad listings and mismanaged listings that I have in the last couple of years. So it's not going to be, this is not about how to do the business easy. Though I will say, I work 40 hours a week. I don't work more than that. And I do enjoy most of what I do in my business. And I would challenge you to build a business where you can do the same. That's the goal here. The goal is to build a business where you feel proud of what you're doing, where you, for the most part, enjoy the contribution you make and help other people along the way. Okay, that's my soapbox for today. Love to have you share a win if you have a win. Share a challenge if a challenge you want to help you with. If you want to just say hi, feel free. Make sure in the chat box you put your contact info so we can network with you if appropriate. I literally look for realtors in other states weekly. So I'd love to have your contact information, as I'm sure other people would as well. With all that said, who's got a victory they want to share or a challenge you need some help with? Raise your hand or put in the chat box. Anybody? There we go. Noriel, and I see you're unmuted. Noriel, what's going on?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing great, man.
So no question. Just again, just the concept of follow up. I've reached out to this one family back in February. Call, text, email, and then finally last week we got a call back that said, and we've communicated once or twice, but there's two siblings. One is kind of the driver, and the other one's just kind of the messenger. So we were able to meet with both of them, and they came down from, I think, Modesto area to Orange County. So it was an opportunity. I mean, we built some rapport, and we're just waiting to decide if they're gonna go with us. I mean, we're still doing the follow-up game until they decide. But I thought it was a good, again, never stop following up. And then another one. 3 brothers, 3 siblings, again, the property in Riverside, and again, followed up since June, first contact, and we did a Zoom meeting with all 3 brothers, and I'm just waiting to hear from them. So again, it sounds all positive, but you just never know. So
what does follow-up look like? What are you doing in these cases to follow up on them?
I am emailing, if I got their email from their initial contact, just following, sending a follow-up email, reiterating what the last conversation was, phone call, leave a if they don't pick up, leave a voicemail, and sometimes text. I haven't really pushed the texting too much, but usually a voicemail and an email.
You want to share this? What's a typical voicemail for a follow-up?
Say, hey, Bill, this is Noriel. Again, last time we talked was July 5th. Again, you mentioned that your court hearing was coming up September 15th. Just wanted to see how that went. Anything new that has come across that you may need, some assistance with. So feel free to give me a call. This is my direct number, and that's about it.
Okay, good.
Nothing special,
Well, I think that there's different approaches, and I think that, again, I came from the classic Mike Ferry school of follow-up, where we follow up intensely, and the idea was you can't follow up too much. I think I would say you are following up too much if you spend too much time following up and not enough time generating new business. So as long as you can make all that work, I think that's great, and it was working for you. You just have to think about it. So I'll just share with you, I don't follow up. Now, I do engage with everybody in my database. I email and social media and such. But I don't unless there's a milestone like a hearing, I will check the notes the week before the hearing. I'll call them maybe the week after the hearing. And that's really about it at that point. So that's more specific follow-up on a milestone. Because I've had leads. I just got a listing where, the lead was referred to me over a year ago. And there's no reason why she could not have listed a year ago, but the attorney kind of scared her out of listing until something happened. And then something happened, and we finally listed the property.
That's what I'm trying to lean to, where we're putting together database, putting together the content to follow up automatically, right, on the drip campaign. That way, the follow-up, it's not so much on me, but it's just the emails coming through or the text automated. So.
Well, and I think also you have to be careful of that, because nobody wants to receive canned follow-up. We've all gotten that, right? If you're a real estate agent, you've gotten 50 different companies sending you what appears to be follow-up that just is slimy, right? Or if you're a real estate investor, you sign up for a webinar, next thing you know, you're getting an email like every day, you're getting a text every day, and they all, hey, Bill, since the last time we talked, blah, 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 like we're best friends. And so I think you have to be careful about something being canned versus something that's creating value. And so that's why I've done my best to be constantly creating value content. Then at some point, I'll put all that into a sequence, but it won't be a sequence of lead follow-ups, just be a sequence of information that somebody in that position is going to find valuable, hopefully. If that makes sense.
Yep.
Cool. Well, no, thanks for sharing. Okay, so let's see. We got a question in the queue and shout out to people with the contact information. Scott's in Las Vegas. Hey, Scott, I'm at the Mandalay Bay, FYI. So if you're around, come buy a drink tonight. What's the best dialogue or inquiries best to ask for in the first probate lead? So Sabina, certified probate realtor. Sabina doesn't have a last name, or her last name is certified probate realtor. Ask what's the best dialogues. I know that Bruce has a class on scripts and dialogues and cold calling, so I would refer you to that. I know there's some content on the website at probatemastery.com, and I know he does a probate, I think it's called Fundamentals, where he'll go through those details and help you get set up on that. I think it's really important that whatever you take, you customize to your business, because it's different everywhere. It's different calling LA County than a rural area. It's different calling new filings versus older unsettled cases. So make sure that you're making appropriate phone calls if it's the first call. We don't want to just come across. Nobody wants to do business with a salesperson. We all want to do business with somebody who's bringing value to us. Donna asks, this is a sequence, have heirs having to go to court to other than heirs out of the house? Donna, I'm not quite sure I follow your question. If you're able to jump in the call, that'd be great. If you want to unmute yourself. And if you're not able to, I understand.
That is just a comment, Bill, that I've got two cases where an heir was living in the house with the parent, and now they're refusing to leave or let anyone in.
Classic.
And we're just, waiting for the court to tell them to get the heck out. Fortunately, an appraiser got in by accident because one of the kids let him in. So we've got pictures what the house looked like before they were having to vacate the property, and we suspect there could be damage to the property.
Where are you located?
Lexington, Kentucky, Central Kentucky.
So
Beautiful
in
place to
California.
live.
Well, thank you for pitching that to us. And if I wanted to move there, is there a good realtor can help me buy a house in the area?
I think we can find one quickly.
Just for those on the call, in California, getting a tenant out is very difficult. But getting an heir out, much easier. Much, much easier. For one, in California law, they're liable for any damage to the estate, and that would include they would have to pay fair market rent from the time they're in the property until they get vacated out of their heirship. So if they do stand, if they do stand to get money, one of the keys I have found is to have an attorney. I can't, as a realtor, explain it to them. I can say, I think this is what's going to happen. I believe it's going to happen. But I do think that having an attorney write him a letter and just say that you're going to be held liable for any costs, including legal fees for eviction and the difference in fair market rent until the time that you're gone will come out of your heirship. And again, that's in California, but I'm sure it's similar in other states. You might want to check in Kentucky and see how it works there.
Right. Well, there is still money owed on this property, so he's keeping track of all his expenses. He had the utilities taken out of his mother's name, so he refused to pay those anymore. But I mean, it's costed. He offered to give her relocation money out of her money she was going to inherit. She wanted nothing to do with it. She told me she's not selling. She's staying there forever. I need to go away.
Well, that's not always how it works. I think depending on
doesn't.
That's part of the fun of probate. So good. Well, let's know how it turns out. Circle back and let us know. Okay, Donna?
Will do. I have a question. How long do you wait after a person dies to make any contact? I don't want to be an ambulance chaser, but I want to be helpful.
Sure. So there's a whole industry called pre-probate data that companies sell as though there's more valuable or there's less competition. And simply that data is when people pass, in the birth certificate is a social security number, gets reported to Social Security Administration to close bank accounts and prevent Social Security fraud. And so those companies have access to that data and they theoretically cross-reference it to properties owned. Now, there's a couple challenges with that. Number one, oftentimes there's still a spouse in the property, right? Husband passes or wife passes, but the other one's still on the property. Second, there might be other plans. If it's held in a trust, of course, that's already going to avoid probate in most cases, but they might need to sell or want to sell. So I don't know anybody who's successfully using that data for probate real estate. I do know investors use it and cross-reference. Like if you buy it through PropStream, you can also get properties not only where the person passed, but where maybe they're delinquent on taxes, notice of default filed, other key indicators, vacant properties, non-occupied. And so you can narrow that down because you're going to find there's a lot of people on those lists that are not interested in selling. And most people I find when they call the pre-probate data, I have a vendor who gave me pre-probate data in LA for free to call. And I appreciate it, but I'm not going to call it because I just know it's just not productive enough time-wise for my time. So I think you have to find some other way to approach those people or have someone else do it for you. I don't think you're going to find it's going to be productive, or give it a try. And again, it's different in LA, large metro, than I'm sure Lexington is more like LA, and I'm sure there's rural areas outside of Lexington that are very different. And so you want to find what works in your area.
Well, I'd go through the obits and cross-reference them with their property valuation to see who owns the property. I also have a website where I can see when a will's been filed, but the PVA will show if it's in a trust or not.
Okay. So you're doing that, yeah. So, I don't know that I would ever call them. But if you're going through that trouble to do that, I would say give it a try and see what happens.
Well, I send out mailers, but I'm trying to decide how fast. I have a fellow realtor whose husband of 50 years died, and she called the other day. She goes, "You won't believe how many realtors have called me and want to know if I want to sell my house." I'm truly insulted by that.
Wow.
And I would never want to be in one of those categories. People are
Right.
desperate for business. So how are you helpful to people without chasing that ambulance or the coroner, as the case may be?
Right. Well, and I think and even if you're on the do not call list, they call. I can tell you from personal experience, I'm a fiduciary on an estate, and I'm on the do not call list, and I've had people text my work number, cell phone, and my wife's cell phone number, because when they did the cross reference, my wife's name popped up, though she has nothing to do with it. I'm a fiduciary, as a business person, has nothing to do with my wife at all. And my wife got this, scary text about somebody dying, and she wondered what was going on. And I said, well, it has nothing to do with us, honey. I'm just working on a deal. So, I do think that there's all realtors, I think, who cut corners, and I don't know any that do that successfully in the long run. I mean, I do know one in LA, and he does a lot of business, and he's kind of slimy, and it kind of promotes his business. I think the only answer to the question is, if you're giving value to people and helping them, then I would say do it. If you're not, and you're just taking from them and you want to be first in line, I would say not to do it. So I interviewed I have a podcast that I do, Probate Weekly, and I've interviewed some vendors that offer services to families who are going through, transitions, different tools, how to notify creditors and bank accounts and subscriptions and such, grief counseling services. I think if you're offering services like that, then you have a reason to call somebody and you're creating value for them. If you're really just calling to be first in line for, hey, I want to list your house, I do think that's slimy. I don't think that's a formula for long run business, in my opinion. Okay, let's see here. Question from Michelle: if a husband and wife owns a home, husband dies, not in a trust, what happens now? So Michelle, it varies on state law. She's asked a question: if a husband and wife are married and one spouse passes, she put husband, but since I'm husband, I'm going to say spouse. Just we don't want to focus on husbands dying. What happens? And so I say there's a couple factors, and it depends on what state you live in. One is how do they take title will affect it, because husband or wife might have a prior marriage and have prior kids that they want the property to go to. And so how they take title can affect whether it all goes to the spouse automatically or it goes to the spouse's estate, deceased spouse's estate, and then gets divided up from there. So it's going to depend on that, number one. And then number two, the state law is going to vary. So in general, when husband and wife own a property as community property, or husband and wife as joint tenants, meaning upon death in California, title automatically goes to the other party. All the spouse has to do is provide a death certificate. They're on the title, and the property would be able to be sold. If it's tenants in common, now you have an issue. Well, who's the inheritance of the other spouse's estate? And if it's prior kids, that's going to be probated. So I hope that helps. Colorado. Don't know Colorado law. So if somebody does and wants to jump in, good question to ask a title representative. Generally speaking, title reps have these handouts in almost all states. They have, if title's held this way, this is what happens. If it's held this way, this is what happens. And I think there's questions of succession, probate and no probate, and also questions of tax. How is the tax law? Community property, automatic step up, joint tenants, automatic step up. And so you want to ask those questions and find out how that gets handled in Colorado. And then, by the way, I would say, Michelle, if you have the question, my suspicion is other people in your database have that question. Why not share that answer in a content piece you email and or post on social media with everybody that knows, likes, and trusts you, and like, and trust. And then we're done posting it and emailing it, make a video and post it on your YouTube channel. So there you go. Hope it helps. Okay, I think I'm up to date with any questions. Okay, if you have a question, raise your hand, put in the chat box. Doing the best I can to keep up. It's a little different for me today. I'm not on my home setup with multiple screens and big screens. I'm on my laptop, which is convenient for travel, but it's not exactly ideal for broadcasting to you high-powered real estate agents and professionals. Okay, any other questions? Hello? Is the microphone working? You guys hear me okay? Can I get a thumbs up? So I will say that part of the program, I can't put it on the screen today. In Facebook, there's an estate planning mastermind group that I think is a really effective tool, about 7,000 people in that group, that you can continue the conversation or ask questions there. And also post your information and look for referrals, whether it be out-of-area attorneys or out-of-area real estate agents. I host Probate Weekly every Thursday at 4 o'clock. And I have a Facebook group, Probate Weekly. I'd love to have you join there. We're about 3,000 people. That a couple things you could post looking for referrals of agents in other areas that deal with probate. You can look for attorneys in other areas. Might be able to help you with that. And then additionally, post your probate related content. Love to have you share it. We can get ideas from each other, copy each other's in different markets. Love to have you guys do that as well. Okay. Any other questions? Comments? No? The group of 30 people is meant to be participative. I will say that if you have a question or problem, my guess is a couple other people do either live or recording. Here's one from Barbara. If someone dies and the bank foreclosure on the foreclosed property, can the heirs still inherit it even if they haven't made the payments? Okay, so Barbara asks if somebody passes and the bank forecloses, can the heirs still inherit? So I don't think that's quite what you mean to ask. I think you're saying they begin the foreclosure process, file a notice of default or trustees, because once they foreclose on the property, they own the property or somebody owns the property. Interesting fact, if there's overage on the property, if the property sells for more than the remaining balance, that money goes, this estate can get that money, claw back that money from the lender. So let's say the lien's 200,000, the house is worth $1 million and it sells for 400,000. There are attorneys that will claw back that difference, 400,000 to 200,000, and get that back into the estate's hands out of the lender's hands. Theoretically, lenders are supposed to be sending that to foreclosed homeowners. Never happens. You have to file for that. And whether you're deceased, a probate estate, or alive, the law is the same in California. But I can say, I think, Barbara, you're asking is, can the heirs step in and avoid a foreclosure by making the payments? Yes. Can they pay off the loan? Yes. The challenge is the timing of it and getting the information. So typically lenders won't give you information until you have your approved letters of authority. Now, I've had occasions where attorneys have negotiated with lenders ahead of time before that, and they took the attorney's involvement as being more serious, and they took a payment to avoid foreclosure or bring a loan current or pay it off in full. So I would say not to give up on it. What I will say is that most lenders will tell consumers, if you just call the regular service line, oh yeah, we're not going to foreclose on you. Oh yeah, we're not going to do. They're running the clock on the customer as fast as they can. But if they actually move forward and agree to a number, my experience is an attorney can get that loan, the foreclosure forestalled, delayed. And then the other thing I would say is in some states, in California, for example, the judge can stop a foreclosure. So if you file probate in time, and sometimes you have to file ex parte to speed things up, you can ask the judge, hey, we have this mortgage and it's foreclosing. We just got the letters approved. We've been diligent. And the estate stands to lose all this equity, either A, at the foreclosed price, or B, the equity we would lose. And I find judges regularly issuing court orders to stop foreclosure. That can be done for sure. Now, sometimes I've seen judges say, hey, you've been playing around with this for over a year now, and I don't want to do that because it's unfair to the lender. And that's more common outside of LA. In LA, it seems like for any reason at all, judges are willing to stop foreclosures. Okay, Donna asked a different question. Child support, can it be attached as a lien on the deed? So I don't believe a child support lien gets attached to a deed. I think what happens is a judgment for child support is filed against an individual person. And so when that person goes to sell the property, when you have a title report, hello?
I'm sorry, I'm driving, so I'm not on video, but I actually have this happening right now. And it happens to be on a property that we were doing creative financing on, we're buying ourselves. And all of a sudden there's a lien on the deed for child support. And there's supposed to be a second one coming in, to be honest. And so I'm trying to figure out the logistics on what to expect. So supposedly it's the third time they've been to court, and they're supposed to make a final decision October 15th. And I'm wondering what to expect.
So usually what happens is, yes. So usually what happens is there's two things. A judgment, your question was, as a lien, judgments against a person. And so what happens is we have a title report that looks clean, and then you go to close the deal, and the title company pulls up as a judgment against the seller that will prevent them from closing the escrow. That's not a lien filed against the property. What happens, though, a smart attorney will file les pendants on the property, which says we have this pending court action. That's what les pendants stands for, pending lien. And it has to be renewed. Different laws, different states, it has to be renewed. So it doesn't really have the effect of a lien, but it has the effect of saying to the title company, hey, you better check. We have this judgment coming against this person, and it will hold things up of a pending court matter. An actual lien normally is against the seller as an individual, not against the property. So you run a prelim, oftentimes it won't show. It only is going to show when you go to close the transaction. But it will hold up to closing for sure.
Well, on the title commitment, yeah, she said we could go ahead and close, but we're going to have to still like either have agreement or have to still work on the whole, she called it a lien, but the title company did. But I just know that it's when we add those together with the amount of the mortgage, which is like 80,000, there's not enough there to for the PRs to get the family, the 3 kids, to get anything out of the property at that point, because we're going to do a payment plan. We're doing a subject to with the seller carryback, and that might not work. We could come up with the difference and just do the subject to, but I'm just trying to figure out the logistics of what might happen, because I finally got a resident in there to help start recouping our money that we've spent. So I'm just wondering what's the possibilities of the court making a decision saying that the heirs, PR and the heir, which are the heirs, we have to sell for a certain amount, for instance. Has that ever happened? We have to sell for a certain amount. I asked a probate attorney and they did not know. I asked a real estate attorney and he wasn't sure. So now I'm not sure. They're not using an attorney. They're only getting advice, and that's it. They're doing it on their own because they don't have any money. They're young. They're 30 years old. They don't have the money for an attorney. So that's where we're at.
Well, I know you're in Arizona. I'm in California, so the law's a little different. But I think that I've never seen anybody make a requirement to sell the property for a certain amount. The problem is going to be you can sell for whatever you want, but if you don't have enough money to satisfy all the liens, you can't close escrow. So I'm not sure how that works. And then also, usually when there's a contested probate, you can sell the house, but the money goes into a blocked account the court's monitoring. So all you're doing is transferring the property from property to cash. And usually there's a process where somebody can object to the sale if they think it's being sold too cheap. So those are the guardrails I've seen. I've never seen a court, order you have to sell it for $400,000 or more. I've never seen that particular process.
So
in my experience.
who can object to the sale, Bill? did you say can object to the sale?
Well, again, I'm in California. The law is different. It might be similar. There's a great attorney. Yeah, there's a great attorney in Arizona, Riley Stanton, who I interviewed. He's really good with subject twos. He works with Pace Morby's group, I know for sure. And if you talk to him, say hi to him for me. But in California, if it's contested, who's going to be the personal representative, or there's some sort of contest going on with a probate case, oftentimes the court will appoint somebody, one side, the other, or a third party, as a temporary administrator for the purpose of selling the property. And then that person's job is to sell property. And then to get both parties to agree to it, they file what's called a notice of proposed action. So I was going on right now where we say, hey, we're selling this property for, whatever it is, $700,000. And both parties can sign, yes, I approve it. Both parties could say, no, I object. And if they wait 15 days after you file it, they've lost their right to object. So that's how it works in California. And so the money then goes into the estate. It doesn't get distributed to pay off creditors. It doesn't go to heirs. It goes to the estate. It would be net of any liens on the property. It would be net of any real estate closing costs and commissions. So that might be a way just to get the property sold and the bleeding to stop if you have expenses in the property and you're not, you have mortgages and taxes and such and upkeep. Might be a way to do it is get the property sold, put the cash into a court supervised blocked account, and then from there decide who's going to get the money. Okay, looks like we lost Donna, or she's done. Okay, next, George asks, how can you buy recording of next week's email? The answer is I don't know yet, to be honest. We're going to offer on the call for people who are taking the class. We're probably offering for half price, is what my assistant said. I don't know. I'm just a talent and I'm running it. And this is the first time we've done it. So for those who don't know, I'm running an email mastermind class for real estate agents on how to build your business, specifically email. It's about an hour-long workshop within 4 half-hour weekly follow-ups. We're going to do homework and actually the idea is to increase your email database and effectiveness by 16 times. So, but to answer your question, I don't know. And do you recommend marketing to pre-probate leads? I don't. He asked a question also. Do I recommend marketing to pre-probate leads? We were just talking about that with, I forget who's in Kentucky we're talking about. I don't recommend that generally because I don't know anybody who's doing it successfully. If you're doing pre-probate marketing successfully, let me know. I'll be glad to give you a shout out or congratulations, but I just don't know anybody who's doing that successfully. So I don't recommend things. I'm not selling data, so I don't really care. I just want you guys to do what I think is going to work. I don't know anybody who's doing that. Okay, next question. I'm having a hard time with this. Okay, so you have a client who expressed, why is this not working right? I'm not having fun with this. Okay. From EXP NorCal, Rhonda, my dentist expressed how scary it is. It's funny, a dentist expressing how scary probate is. I think that's a joke. To go through probate, his mother passed away. I followed up with a card and business card offering assistance. I'd like to follow up with them by dropping a note, providing a probate checklist. As soon as I can offer, I'd like to keep this connection separate from my regular dental visit scheduled in October. Rhonda, she has a probate lead from the dentist. I can just imagine, this is a classic joke, right? You're there with your mouth open, and the dentist is all, so tell me about that form I have to fill out. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Your mouth is, I don't know, have Novocaine in it. You can't talk. That's a classic dental. You can do a whole comedy bit, Rhonda, with that. Maybe I should wait until after my regular dental appointment as a follow-up your thoughts. I would follow up. I would do my follow-up when it's best to follow up, and I would get my dental cleaning when I should get my dental cleaning, and I really wouldn't worry about mixing the two. And if the dentist in the middle of it started to ask me questions, I asked him to wait till I was done. I don't know if you're asking this to be funny or I assume it's a question in good faith, but I would say that, yeah, I hear your point, and yes, but dentists do want to talk with your mouth full. your mouth is all Novocane up. That's kind of part of a dentist, but they're lonely people. I think the dentists, if I remember right, dentists have the highest rate of suicide of any profession. And I don't know why. I like my dentist. I like having clean teeth, but anyhow, so yeah, I would say to you, just do your follow when you should follow up and in the way you should, and do your get your dental cleaning regularly, and floss early and often, and don't worry about the intersection. That'd be my best advice. Hope that helps. California Probate deep dive on timelines. There are through these webinars or found elsewhere. Okay, so Sabrina asked a question about California Probate deep dive. Last week on my Probate Weekly show, I interviewed Paul Horn, who's the most prolific probate attorney in Los Angeles County in most cases. He had a great graphic he brought on the call that shows timelines. So I would refer you to that program, probateweekly.com. If you go to episodes.probateweekly.com, you'll see last week's episode with Paul Horn, and he does a great job. He has on his website the California timeline. So hopefully, Sabrina, that will help you. Okay, so I don't see any hands up. I don't see anybody unmuted. We've got about 10 minutes left. If anybody has any questions, challenges, problems. Joan's sitting there on the sofa drinking your cup of coffee. You look so relaxed. Very nice to have you. What it's worth. Hi, how you doing? I don't think I can hear you. You're muted. Let's see. You get muted. There you go. No, you're just teasing us by muting yourself and remuting. There you go.
Hi. Hi, Bill.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
You look so comfortable there on the couch with your coffee there and all snuggled up. Where are you?
I am in Washington State. I'm in my office, yes, and I didn't know that I had my video on, but I am cozy and comfortable, and I'm just in the middle of a potential lawsuit, and it's not really probate related, but I'm still working on some probate stuff kind of behind the scenes with a business partner. So it is quite a exciting time in real estate. So hopefully I'll be more engaged in doing some of the probate leads, but right now I've been delayed for over about a year now. So you guys will see me on here. I'm always listening. I'm getting all your wonderful knowledge. I thank you for your wisdom.
Thanks so much. Okay, so again, I think the goal here is to help you guys with victories and with challenges and losses, if we can help anyway. I think that this is meant to be a mastermind. I'm on this call because when Chad started this program, I needed it as a practitioner. I need camaraderie. I want to learn new tips. I want to help other people, and I need other people to help me from time to time. And so that's what we did this for. And it's not meant to be just content. I do on Thursday an interview piece that's just pure content, though I let people ask questions. But the purpose there is to learn. And this is really more about helping us. I think we all need that. Encouragement, challenges, ways to run problems through. I think we had a couple people ask questions today that I don't know I necessarily solve the problem, but hopefully give them some things to think about, or give them. I think sometimes when you ask a question and you have to clarify a question, it forces you to think about it differently, and hopefully they can solve their problems that way too. So I appreciate those who asked questions today, whether I was able to solve them or not. Love to have you guys participate. I think we'll wrap up unless I see a hand up or John, I see you're unmuted. Do you have a, no, I'm sorry, John, thank you so much. Great chatting with you, and we'll talk. Okay, so I don't see any hands up or unmuted. If you have a question, jump in here. Otherwise, I'll point you to the Facebook group. The Estate Planning Mastermind is an adjunct to this program. Great place to continue the conversation. If you have additional questions or think of them later or comments when you watch the video. And then I host probateweekly.com every Thursday at 4 p.m. And then from there, we have Probate Weekly as a Facebook group where we also continue the conversation. And you can look for referrals across the country and post your probate-related content. Let David participate there. So I think we'll call a wrap today, unless anybody else has anything else I don't see. I'm Bill Gross. I'm a real estate agent in Los Angeles, California. I'm building a probate team nationally. Love to help you. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. You can reach me at Bill Gross Probate on all your favorite social media. And if I don't speak to you before, make today your best day ever. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.